The Grand Council chamber stretched for nearly a kilometer, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Representatives from 12 elder species sat in their designated sections, their forms ranging from the towering insectoid Velorans to the floating gas cloud entities of the Asari. At the center podium, Ambassador Taemin of the Veloran Empire addressed the assembly with growing concern in his clicking voice. They achieved faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries, Taemin announced, his mandibles twitching with agitation. Every other species took at least 5,000 years. The humans are dangerous precisely because they advance too quickly without wisdom to guide them. Chancellor Hiram, a being whose species had guided the Galactic Council for 10,000 years, raised one of her 7 delicate hands for silence. Her silver skin shimmered under the chamber lights as she spoke in the universal language that all species understood. We have maintained galactic peace for 50 millennia through our treaties. No species has ever rejected the Standard Integration Treaty. The humans will be no different. Prepare the delegation. 3 weeks later, Commander Jiwoo stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, the Horizon. As it approached Axis Prime, she was a woman of average height with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her crew had trained for this moment for months, studying every scrap of information about the Galactic Council. Behind her, the blue marble of Earth hung in the viewport, smaller now as they ventured farther than any human had gone before. Commander, we're receiving their docking coordinates, reported the communications officer. They're sending a greeting in 17 different languages. Should I respond? Ji-woo smiled slightly. Tell them we appreciate the gesture, but Korean or English will work just fine. The Axis Prime Station was magnificent. It had been built over thousands of years, a floating city that housed millions of beings from across the galaxy. As Ji-woo and her delegation walked through the corridors, aliens of every imaginable shape and size stopped to stare at the humans. Some whispered to each other. Others simply watched with eyes that glowed, blinked, or focused in ways human eyes could not. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. Ji-woo recognized that immediately. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, making visitors feel small. The 12 elder species sat on elevated platforms, looking down at the central floor where the human delegation now stood. It was theater, pure and simple, meant to make newcomers understand their place in the galactic hierarchy. Ambassador Taemin descended from his platform, his 6 legs carrying his massive frame with surprising grace. He held a data crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Commander Ji-woo of Earth, we welcome humanity to galactic civilization. What you hold in your databases now is the Standard Integration Treaty. Every spacefaring species has signed this document. It ensures peace, prosperity, and order throughout the galaxy. Ji-woo accepted the crystal and plugged it into her datapad. Numbers scrolled across the screen. 40,000 pages. She glanced at her team, then back at Taemin. We'll need time to review this. Of course. Taemin clicked, his tone suggesting this was a mere formality. We have prepared quarters for you. Take 3 days. We look forward to the signing ceremony. For 3 days, Ji-woo and her team worked through the treaty. Article by article, clause by clause, they dissected what the Galactic Council was really asking. The document was cleverly written, filled with diplomatic language that obscured its true requirements. They want access to all our technology, said one of her advisors, a young man named Dong-ha, who specialized in trade agreements. Complete and unrestricted access. We'd have to share everything we develop. Another team member, a scientist named Sun-hee, highlighted another section. They're setting limits on our military. We can't build more than what they deem appropriate for our population size. And they decide what's appropriate. Ji-woo read through the sections on territorial boundaries. We get 12 systems. That's it. Even though we've already colonized 17, they expect us to abandon 5 of our colonies. The arbitration clause was perhaps the most troubling. Any dispute involving humanity would be settled by the Council with no appeals process. The Council's decision would be final and binding. Earth would have one vote among thousands, effectively making humanity powerless in any decision affecting their own future. On the morning of the 4th day, the entire Galactic Council assembled for what they assumed would be a signing ceremony. Camera drones from 100 news networks hovered in the air. Diplomats and observers packed the viewing galleries. Chancellor Rim sat on her throne, already prepared to deliver her welcoming speech. Jiwoo walked to the center of the chamber. She carried no documents, no prepared statements. The silence in the room was absolute as thousands of beings waited for humanity's entry into galactic civilization. "We have reviewed your treaty carefully," Jiwoo began, her voice calm and steady. "We understand what you're offering and what you're asking in return. After careful consideration, humanity's answer is no. We respectfully decline." For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. The concept was so foreign, so unexpected, that the assembled beings simply couldn't process what they'd heard. Then the chamber erupted. Voices in a dozen languages shouted at once. Several council members stood from their seats. Others activated their translation devices, certain they must have misunderstood. Chancellor Hiram's skin flushed from silver to deep purple, a sign of extreme agitation in her species. "Commander Jiwoo, perhaps you misunderstand the nature of our offer. This is not a negotiation. This is how things are done, how they have always been done." "I understand perfectly," Jiwoo replied. "You want us to surrender our sovereignty in exchange for membership in your organization. We're not interested." Ambassador Taemin moved toward her, his massive form casting a shadow over the human delegation. "You cannot refuse. No species refuses. Do you understand the consequences? You will be cut off from galactic trade. Your star charts will be erased. You will be alone in the darkness." Jiwoo met his compound eyes without flinching. "We've been alone in the darkness for our entire existence. We'll manage." "This is foolishness," snapped one of the other council members, a being whose species specialized in economic matters. His name was Young Seek, and his tentacles writhed with agitation. "Your people will suffer. Your economy will collapse without access to our markets. Maybe," Jiwoo acknowledged, "or maybe we'll figure something else out. Either way, that's our decision to make, not yours." Chancellor Rim rose from her throne, her 7 hands spread in a gesture that commanded attention. "Commander Jiwoo, I will give you one more chance. Return to your ship. Consult with your government. Come back in 1 week with the correct answer. This discussion is over." Jiwoo smiled politely. "I don't need a week. My government's position is clear. We came here hoping to make friends, to learn from you, to share what we know. But we won't sign away our freedom to do it. If that's the only relationship you're offering, then I guess we're done here." She turned and walked toward the exit, her team following behind her. The council chamber remained in chaos as the human delegation departed. In 10,000 years, no species had ever simply walked away. As the horizon detached from Axis Prime and began its journey back to Earth, Jiwoo stood on the bridge, watching the station shrink in the distance. Her communications officer approached hesitantly. "Commander, we're receiving over 300 messages from the Council. They're demanding we return immediately." "Ignore them," Jiwoo said simply. "Should I send a response?" Jiwoo thought for a moment, then shook her head. "No, we said everything that needed saying. Let's go home." Behind them, on Axis Prime, Chancellor Hiram convened an emergency meeting of the Council's inner circle. Around the secure conference table sat the military leaders, economic chiefs, and senior diplomats of the elder species. "They'll come back," insisted young Sikh, though his voice lacked conviction. "Once they experience isolation, once their people start demanding access to our technology and markets, they'll come back begging to sign." General Kyung-soo, the Dranak Empire's military commander, was less optimistic. "Did you see how their commander looked at us? That wasn't fear or uncertainty. That was confidence. They know something we don't." Chancellor Hayrim stared at the star map floating above the table, showing humanity's small cluster of colonies at the edge of council space. Such a tiny presence, yet they'd just done the impossible. They'd said no. "Implement the sanctions," she ordered. "Complete economic and diplomatic isolation. When they're ready to be reasonable, we'll be waiting." Around the table, the council members nodded in agreement. Not one of them suspected that humanity's refusal was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to change in ways none of them could imagine. 6 months had passed since Commander Ji-woo walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. 6 months since humanity became the first species in recorded history to reject the Standard Integration Treaty. On Earth, Trade Minister Dong-ha sat in his office overlooking the sprawling cityscape of New Seoul, reviewing economic reports with growing satisfaction. The sanctions had begun immediately. Every species loyal to the Council had cut all trade with human worlds. Human ships were denied docking rights at Council stations. Star charts showing human territory were deleted from galactic databases, as if Earth and its 17 colonies simply didn't exist. The Council's message was clear: comply or be forgotten. Dong-ha had spent the first month worried. Earth's economy had just begun integrating with galactic markets. They'd established trade relationships with 40 different species, exchanging everything from agricultural products to entertainment media. Losing all of that overnight should have been devastating. Instead, something unexpected happened. Human engineers, cut off from alien technology, started reverse engineering the few samples they'd obtained during the brief period of contact. Dr. Sun-hee's team at the Advanced Propulsion Laboratory had taken apart a Valoran FTL drive, studied its principles, and then improved on the design. The new human drives were 30% faster and used half the energy. "It's actually better this way," Sun-hee told Dong-ha during one of their regular briefings. She was a slight woman with permanently oil-stained hands and an infectious enthusiasm for her work. "When we had access to their tech, we were trying to understand their methods. Now we're solving the same problems our own way. Turns out our way works pretty well." The same pattern repeated across every field. Human programmers developed quantum computing systems that outperformed anything the Council used. Human farmers, unable to import alien crops, engineered new varieties that grew faster and produced more. Human manufacturers, forced to rely on local resources, discovered more efficient production methods. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source. A Krellin trader named Bektar, a reptilian being with iridescent scales and a talent for finding profitable opportunities, arrived at Earth's orbital station 3 months into the sanctions. He came alone on a small cargo vessel and requested permission to dock when questioned about the sanctions. Bektar's translator device conveyed his amused hiss. "The Council says nobody can trade with you. But I'm not nobody. I'm an independent merchant. I go where profit goes." Dong-ha met with Bektar personally. The Krellin had brought samples of his goods: exotic spices, rare minerals, and information databases. In return, he wanted to see what Earth could offer. Dong-ha showed him everything from Earth's famous coffee and chocolate to advanced medical supplies and entertainment systems. Bektar's scales brightened with excitement as he tasted coffee for the first time. "This is incredible. My people will pay fortune for this. And these medical scanners, they're more accurate than what Council hospitals use." How much? They negotiated for hours. When Bektar left Earth, his cargo hold was full of human goods. More importantly, he left with information about human markets and products. Within weeks, that information spread through the networks of independent traders who operated outside Council authority. More ships began arriving, not from Council species, but from the countless independent operators, small colonies, and frontier worlds that existed in the spaces between official territory. They came quietly at first, careful not to attract Council attention. But they came. On Axis Prime, Economic Overseer Young Seek was becoming increasingly alarmed. His tentacles writhed nervously as he presented his report to Chancellor Hayrim and the Inner Council. "The sanctions are failing," Young Seek announced, his voice tight with stress. "Actually, they're worse than failing. They're backfiring." Chancellor Hayrim's silver skin darkened. "Explain." Young Seek activated a holographic display showing trade flow patterns across the galaxy. 3 months ago, we cut off all trade with humanity. We expected their economy to collapse. Instead, their economy grew by 18%. Meanwhile, our own member worlds are experiencing shortages. "What kind of shortages?" demanded General Kyung-Soo. "Everything," Young Seek said miserably. Before the sanctions, Earth was exporting high-quality manufactured goods at competitive prices. Our own manufacturers can't match their efficiency. Border worlds that were buying human products are now dealing with inferior alternatives at higher prices. They're not happy." The display shifted to show another set of data. "And then there's the black market. We estimate that at least 40% of our member species are secretly trading with humans through independent intermediaries. The profits are enormous. Some entire sectors are running their economies on illegal human trade." Ambassador Taemin clicked his mandibles in frustration. "Have you arrested these smugglers?" "We've tried," Young Seek admitted. "Last month, we caught a trade convoy carrying human goods. We confiscated the cargo and threatened the traders with expulsion from Council space. Do you know what happened? 17 nearby colonies protested. They needed those goods. We had to return the cargo and let the traders go just to avoid a revolt." Chancellor Hayrim stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "This was supposed to be simple. We isolate them, they suffer, they come back willing to negotiate. What went wrong? We assumed they needed us more than we needed them," said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. It was Insu, one of the Council's senior diplomats. He rarely spoke in these meetings, preferring to observe and analyze. That assumption was incorrect. Young Seek nodded. "Insu is right. The humans are providing goods and services that our members want, at prices and quality we can't match. By cutting them off, we didn't hurt them. We hurt ourselves and made them more valuable." The meeting dissolved into argument. Some council members wanted to strengthen the sanctions, others wanted to negotiate. General Kyung-Soo suggested military action. Chancellor Hayrim listened to them all, feeling the weight of her 10,000 years of experience pressing down on her. Finally, she made her decision. "Ambassador Taemin, prepare a delegation. We'll go back to Earth with a new proposal. Better terms, more autonomy, something they can accept." 2 weeks later, Taemin found himself back on Earth, sitting across from diplomat Insu in a conference room overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The human, Insu, shared a name with the Galactic Council's diplomat, something Taemin found oddly amusing despite his frustration. "We're prepared to offer significant concessions," Taemin explained, sliding a data crystal across the table. "Reduced technology sharing requirements, more military autonomy, 25 systems instead of 12, and a seat on the Council's Security Committee." Insu examined the proposal carefully. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen many negotiations. He read through every page while Tae-min waited. Finally, In-soo looked up and smiled gently. "This is much better than your first offer," In-soo acknowledged. "I can see the council put real thought into this. You're offering us respect and genuine partnership." Tae-min felt a wave of relief. Finally, reason was prevailing. "Then you'll sign?" "No," In-soo said simply. "We appreciate the gesture, but our position hasn't changed. We don't want to join the council, even with better terms. We want to be independent." Tae-min's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Why? We're offering you everything you could want. Power, protection, access to the entire galactic economy. At the cost of our sovereignty," In-soo replied. "That's still too high a price. Look, Ambassador, we're not trying to insult you or the council. We understand you've maintained peace for 50,000 years. That's admirable. But your system requires members to surrender their self-determination. We can't do that. Then, what do you want?" Tae-min asked, genuinely confused. In-soo stood and walked to the window. "We want to build relationships based on mutual respect and voluntary cooperation. We want to trade with species because both sides benefit, not because a treaty requires it. We want to make friends, share knowledge, and explore the galaxy together. But we want to do it as equals, not as subordinates." "The galaxy doesn't work that way," Tae-min protested. "There has to be order. There has to be authority. Without the council maintaining control, there would be chaos." "Maybe," In-soo agreed. "Or maybe the galaxy is ready for something different. Either way, that's not our decision to make for everyone else. It's only our decision for ourselves. And we've decided." Tae-min left Earth empty-handed. His report to the council was brief and devastating. Humanity would not reconsider. They were thriving under sanctions. And worse, their independence was inspiring others. Back on Axis Prime, Chancellor Hiram convened another emergency session. This time, the news was even more troubling. Young-Sig's latest report showed that 12 council member species had formally requested permission to establish independent trade agreements with Earth. Another 30 were rumored to be considering it. "They're watching humanity succeed without us," Young-Sig explained. "And they're wondering why they need us at all." For the first time in her long life, Chancellor Hiram felt genuinely afraid. The council had maintained order for 50 millennia through the simple fact that no one questioned it. General Kyung-soo of the Draenei Empire stood before the Galactic Council's inner circle, his massive armored form radiating confidence. He had commanded fleets for 300 years and never known defeat. Now he proposed a solution to the human problem that he believed was both elegant and necessary. Diplomacy has failed. Economics has failed. It's time to remind these humans why civilizations submit to the council, Kyung-soo declared, his voice resonating through the chamber. Not through conquest, but through demonstration. We show them the cost of defiance. Chancellor Hiram studied the general carefully. She had grown weary over the past months, watching her carefully ordered galaxy begin to fracture. "What exactly are you proposing?" Kyung-soo activated a holographic display showing human territory. A small mining station on the edge of their space glowed red. "This is Station Outpost 7. It's automated, used for mining rare minerals. No permanent population. We take a fleet, we destroy it, and we send a message. Defy the council and lose what you've built." "You want to commit an act of war," Ambassador Tae-min said slowly. "I want to prevent a war," Kyung-soo corrected. "The humans are strong-willed but not stupid. Once they see what we're capable of, they'll negotiate. Every species does. We've maintained peace for 50,000 years precisely because we're willing to use force when necessary. Economic Overseer Young Six tentacles writhed nervously. And if they retaliate? Kyung-soo's laugh was like grinding stone. With what? Their tiny fleet? We have 10,000 years of military advancement over them. They've been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. Their technology is impressive for their age, but they cannot match the combined might of the Council's military forces. The debate lasted for hours. Some Council members opposed any military action. Others argued that humanity's continued defiance was undermining Council authority throughout the galaxy. In the end, Chancellor Hiram made her decision. General Kyung-soo, you will assemble a fleet. 200 warships. You will enter human space, deliver an ultimatum, and if they refuse, you will destroy the mining station. Nothing more. No other targets. This is a demonstration only. Kyung-soo bowed, satisfied. It will be done. 3 weeks later, a massive council fleet assembled at the border of human space. 200 warships from 12 different species, each vessel a masterpiece of military engineering developed over millennia. Admiral Tae-min commanded the fleet, having been promoted from his diplomatic role. He stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking at the displays showing human territory ahead. Send the ultimatum, Tae-min ordered. The message was transmitted to every human world simultaneously. Its content was simple. Sign the Standard Integration Treaty within 24 hours or face military action. The target was specified. Outpost 7 would be destroyed as proof of the Council's resolve. On the bridge of the human defense frigate Indomitable, Captain Bao-ra received the message. She was a young woman, only 32 years old, but she'd been commanding frontier defense vessels for 5 years. She read the ultimatum twice, then activated her communication system. Outpost 7, this is Captain Bao-ra. Begin emergency evacuation protocols. Transfer all AI systems and data to the mobile cores. You have 20 hours. The automated systems at Outpost 7 responded immediately. Robotic workers began packing essential equipment and data storage systems into cargo containers. By the time the Council fleet arrived, the station would be empty of anything truly valuable. Bao-ra then sent a message to Earth Command. They're coming. 200 ships. Looks like they want to make a point. The response from Commander Jiwoo was brief. Let them make it. Then make ours. When the Council fleet arrived at Outpost 7 exactly 24 hours later, they found the Indomitable waiting. The human frigate was small compared to the massive Council warships, barely a tenth the size of the smallest vessel in the fleet. Admiral Tae-min opened a communication channel. Captain Bao, I presume. You should evacuate. We have no wish to harm your crew. Bao-ra's face appeared on his screen. She looked calm, almost bored. We've evacuated the station. It's just metal and rock now. If destroying it makes you feel better, go ahead. You're not leaving? Tae-min asked, confused. No, this is human space. We're staying right here. Tae-min felt a growing sense of unease. Something about the human captain's confidence bothered him. But he had his orders. Very well. This is your final warning. Humanity has rejected the Council's authority. There are consequences for such defiance. He signaled to his weapons officer. One of the Council's heavy cruisers powered up its main cannon and fired. The beam of concentrated energy crossed the distance to Outpost 7 in seconds. The station exploded in a brilliant flash, debris scattering into space. Bao-ra watched the destruction without expression. Then she smiled. Okay, our turn. Before Tae-min could respond, the Indomitable opened fire. The weapons that emerged from the human frigate were unlike anything the Council had seen. Beams of directed energy so focused, they looked like solid lines of light. Missiles that moved at speeds that shouldn't have been possible. The first 12 Council cruisers were disabled before they could even raise shields. Their propulsion systems went dark. Their weapons arrays melted into slag. Not destroyed, but completely neutralized. Evasive maneuvers. Taemin shouted. All ships, return fire. The Council fleet erupted with weapons fire. Hundreds of beams, missiles, and plasma cannons all targeted the single human ship. But the Indomitable moved like nothing Taemin had ever seen. It dodged, weaved, and accelerated at angles that should have torn the ship apart. Every movement was precise, calculated, impossible dot, and all the while, the human ship kept firing. Another 10 Council vessels went dark. Then 15 more. General Kyung-soo, commanding from a battleship on the fleet's right flank, couldn't believe what he was seeing. How are they doing this? He demanded. One ship against 200. Then 3 more human frigates appeared from behind a nearby asteroid. They'd been hiding, waiting. 4 human ships against 200 Council vessels should still have been suicide. Instead, it was a massacre. The human ships moved in perfect coordination. Their weapons were devastatingly accurate. They never aimed to destroy, Taemin realized. They aimed to disable. Every shot targeted engines, weapons, shields. They were taking the Council fleet apart piece by piece. Retreat. Taemin finally ordered. All ships full retreat. The withdrawal was chaos. Council ships crashed into each other trying to escape. Several more were disabled as they turned to flee. The human ships pursued for exactly 1 hour, methodically crippling any vessel that didn't exit human space fast enough. When it was over, 160 Council warships drifted helplessly in space. Their crews unharmed, but their ships completely neutralized. The 40 vessels that escaped had done so only because the humans let them go. Captain Laura opened a communication channel to Admiral Taemin's disabled flagship. We're sending repair ships to help your crews. You're not our prisoners. You're not our enemies. But you need to leave our space and not come back. Taemin stared at her image on his screen, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. How do you have such technology? Laura shrugged. We don't have thousands of years of tradition telling us how things should work. We just figure out what works and do it. Your technology is impressive, Admiral. But it's old. Refined, elegant, and old. Ours is new, rough around the edges, but it gets the job done. Over the next 2 days, human repair vessels arrived in force. They provided life support, helped repair critical systems, and gave the Council crews enough functionality to limp back to their own space. Not a single Council crew member was harmed. Back on Axis Prime, Chancellor Hiram watched the recordings of the battle with growing horror. Security Director Minho, who had analyzed every second of the engagement, stood before the Inner Council with his report. Their technology is at minimum 2 centuries ahead of ours, Minho stated flatly. Their engines, weapons, shields, all of it. But it's more than just technology. Their tactics, their coordination, their training. That captain commanded her ship with a precision I've never seen. How is this possible? Young-sik asked. They've been spacefaring for less than 200 years. Because they didn't have anyone telling them the right way to do things, Minho explained. They developed everything from scratch, solving problems without preconceptions. And they did it fast because they had to. No one was sharing technology with them. General Kyung-soo sat in the chamber, his armor scarred from the battle. He had been pulled from his damaged ship and was now facing the Council that had approved his plan. They could have destroyed us, he said quietly. They had the power, but they chose not to. They disabled our ships and sent help. Why? Ambassador Taemin, also rescued from his flagship, answered. Because they meant what they said. They don't want to conquer anyone. They just want to be left alone. Chancellor Hiram looked at the star map floating above the conference table. Human territory glowed there, a small cluster of systems on the galactic rim. Such a tiny piece of space. But after today, everyone in the galaxy would know that humanity had defeated the Council's fleet. What do we do now? Asked one of the junior council members. The news of humanity's military victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, every civilized world had seen recordings of the battle. 4 human frigates defeating 200 Council warships without suffering a single casualty. The footage was analyzed, discussed, and debated on billions of worlds. But the military defeat was only the beginning of the Council's problems. On the Krellin homeworld, Councillor Jihyun stood before her people's parliament. She was an elder of her species, her scales dulled with age, but her mind still sharp. For 40 years, she had represented the Krellins on the Galactic Council. Now she proposed something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. I move that we withdraw from the Standard Integration Treaty, Jihyun announced. The Parliament chamber fell silent. For 3,000 years, we have followed the Council's rules. We accepted their limitations on our military, their oversight of our economy, their authority over our foreign policy. We did this because we believed it was necessary for peace. She activated a holographic display showing humanity's territory. Then the humans arrived. They looked at the same treaty we all signed and said no. The Council tried to force them. Sanctions, isolation, military action. All failed. And the humans are thriving. They trade with whoever they want. They develop whatever technology they want. They answer to no one but themselves. A young parliamentarian stood. Are you suggesting we follow their example? I'm suggesting we remember what we gave up, Jihyun replied. The Council doesn't maintain peace. We maintain peace. The Council doesn't create prosperity. We create prosperity. The Council just takes credit and collects authority. Humanity has shown us we don't need them. So I ask, why are we still pretending we do? The vote was close, but it passed. The Krellin Confederacy formally withdrew from the Council and immediately sent a diplomatic delegation to Earth. They wanted to establish relations with humanity as equals, not as subordinates to some distant authority. On Axis Prime, Chancellor Hiram received the news with a sinking feeling. If the Krellins could leave, others would follow. She was right. Within 1 month, 4 more species withdrew from the Council. The Talvaran Union, the Marathi Collective, the Realm Hierarchy, and the Asari Consciousness. Each made their own announcement, but the message was the same. They no longer accepted the Council's authority. The galaxy was fracturing. Not every species left. The oldest and most conservative civilizations stayed loyal to the Council. The Valoran Empire, the Dranik hegemony, and dozens of others believed that order required hierarchy. They looked at humanity's independence with fear, seeing it not as freedom, but as the beginning of chaos. Ambassador Taman found himself leading this conservative faction. Despite his failures with humanity, or perhaps because of them, he understood what was at stake. He stood before, remained of the Council, and proposed a new strategy. We cannot force humanity to join us, Taman admitted. Every attempt has failed. But we can offer them a compromise. A special status that acknowledges their independence while bringing them into a relationship with the Council. What kind of relationship? Chancellor Hiram asked. We recognize them as a sovereign power, Taman explained. Not members of the Council, but partners. They maintain complete autonomy, but agree to non-aggression pacts and mutual defense treaties. We get what we actually need, which is stability. They get what they want, which is freedom. Young Sikh, still serving as economic overseer for the diminished Council, supported the proposal. It's practical. We can't beat them militarily. We can't hurt them economically. A negotiated coexistence is better than continued deterioration. The Council approved the proposal. Simultaneously, the breakaway species were forming their own coalition. Led by Counselor Jihan, they reached out to humanity with their own offer. Not a treaty or partnership, but an alliance of equals. A new organization based on voluntary cooperation rather than mandatory submission. Foreign Secretary J1 found himself at the center of a diplomatic storm. In 1 week, he hosted 3 separate delegations. The Hardline Council remnant offering their special protectorate status. The Breakaway Coalition offering alliance and friendship. And dozens of independent species offering individual treaties and trade agreements. J1 was an older man who had spent 40 years in diplomatic service. He'd negotiated everything from trade deals to peace treaties. But he'd never faced a situation where humanity's simple refusal to sign a document had reshaped galactic politics. He met with Commander Ji Woo, Trade Minister Dong Ha, and Captain Biora, who would become something of a celebrity after the battle. Together, they drafted humanity's response. Speaker Hannah delivered that response in a public broadcast, transmitted to every world in the galaxy. She was younger than most world leaders, only 40 years old, but she spoke with a clarity that cut through diplomatic doublespeak. Over the past year, humanity has been asked repeatedly to submit to the Galactic Council's authority. Hannah began. We have refused each time, not because we're arrogant or aggressive, not because we want conflict, but because of a simple principle that guides our civilization. No government should rule without the consent of the governed. Our image appeared on billions of screens across thousands of worlds. Humans watched from Earth and the colonies. Aliens watched from every corner of the galaxy. Everyone wanted to know what humanity would do next. We left Earth with dreams of meeting other species, learning from them, sharing what we know. Hannah continued. We wanted friends, not masters. The Council asked us to surrender our sovereignty as the price of admission to galactic civilization. That price is too high. She paused, letting her words sink in. But we understand that our refusal has created a difficult situation. The galaxy is dividing. Species are choosing sides. Some want to maintain the old order. Others want to try something new. Both sides are asking us to join them. Our answer is this: we will not join any organization that claims authority over us. We will not sign any treaty that surrenders our right to govern ourselves. But we will be friends with any species that wants friendship on terms of equality and mutual respect. The camera pulled back to show Earth behind her, the blue and green planet floating in space. Any world that wishes to trade with us is welcome. Any species that wants to share knowledge, we're eager to learn. Any civilization that needs help and asks for it, we'll do what we can. But we will not submit to oversight. We will not accept hierarchy. And we will not allow anyone to make decisions for us. Some of you fear that without the Council's authority, the galaxy will descend into chaos. Maybe you're right. Or maybe you're discovering that you never needed that authority in the first place. That's not for us to decide. Each species must make its own choice. We've made ours. Hannah's final words resonated across the galaxy. We are humanity. We came to the stars as free people, and we will remain free people. Anyone who wants to join us in that freedom is welcome. Anyone who tries to take it from us will fail. Thank you. The broadcast ended. For several seconds, there was silence across the galaxy as beings of every species processed what they'd just heard. Then the responses began flooding in. 17 more species withdrew from the Council within 1 week. They'd been wavering, uncertain, afraid to make the leap. Humanity's speech gave them courage. If humans could stand alone and thrive, why couldn't they? Chancellor Hayrim watched her life's work crumble. The Galactic Council, which had governed thousands of worlds for 50,000 years, now represented fewer than 200. More than half her members had left. She sat alone in her chambers, staring at the star map. The galaxy she'd known was disappearing. In its place, something new was emerging. Species forming their own alliances, making their own decisions, trading freely without oversight. It looked like chaos to her. Uncontrolled, unguided, unpredictable. But then she noticed something strange. Despite the political upheaval, there was no war. No conflict. The species that had left the council weren't fighting each other. They were talking, negotiating, finding their own ways to coexist. Maybe they didn't need the council after all. Ambassador Taemin visited her that evening. He looked tired, his mandibles drooping with exhaustion. "What do we do now?" he asked. "We survive," Hiram said quietly. "The species that want structure and authority will stay with us. The ones that want freedom will go their own way. The galaxy is big enough for both." But for 50,000 years, there was one way. One system. One council. Hiram turned to look at him. And now there isn't. Humanity didn't just refuse our treaty. They proved we were wrong about something fundamental. We thought civilization required control. They're showing the galaxy that civilization requires freedom. She looked back at the star map, at the hundreds of worlds that had once been under council authority and now governed themselves. They changed everything, Taemin. With one word. No, such a simple word. But it broke our galaxy in half. Across human space, celebration was more muted. They hadn't tried to start a revolution. They just wanted to be left alone. Now they found themselves at the center of a galactic transformation. Commander Ji Woo sat on the bridge of the horizon, watching the diplomatic traffic. 2 years had passed since Commander Ji Woo walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. 2 years since humanity said no and changed the galaxy forever. On Earth, in the newly constructed Commonwealth Center overlooking the Pacific Ocean, Ambassador Sujin prepared for another day of meetings. The Commonwealth Center was nothing like the Grand Council chambers on Axis Prime. It was smaller, more practical, designed for function rather than intimidation. Representatives from hundreds of species came and went freely. There were no elevated platforms, no thrones, no hierarchy. Everyone sat at the same level. Sujin was a diplomat who had spent 20 years building relationships with other nations on Earth. Now she found herself doing the same thing on a galactic scale. She represented humanity in the Galactic Commonwealth, the new organization that had emerged from the ashes of the old council's authority. The Commonwealth was different in every way that mattered. It had no power to make laws. It couldn't force any species to do anything. There were no mandatory treaties, no required technology sharing, no limitations on military forces. It existed purely to facilitate cooperation between species that chose to cooperate. It's messier than the old system, Sujin explained to a young intern from Mars. Hundreds of individual agreements instead of one universal treaty. Different species with different rules. Constant negotiation. But it works because everyone's here voluntarily. On Axis Prime, the original Galactic Council still existed. Chancellor Hiram still sat on her throne, still governed the species that preferred structure and authority. But the Council was a shadow of what it had been. From thousands of member worlds, it now counted barely 200. Hiram was old now, even by her species standards. She spent her days watching reports of the Commonwealth's growing success. Trade between member species had increased by 300%. Scientific collaboration had led to breakthroughs in medicine, energy production, and space travel. And despite the lack of central authority, there was peace. "How is it working?" her aide asked one morning, genuine confusion in his voice. "With no one in charge, it should be chaos." "Because no one needs to be in charge," Hiram admitted. "We built the council on the assumption that species couldn't govern themselves without oversight. The humans proved that assumption wrong. Dr. Sun He's research laboratory had become a hub of galactic scientific collaboration. Scientists from 40 different species worked alongside humans, sharing ideas and methodologies. The mixture of perspectives led to innovations none of them could have achieved alone. The Krellin showed us a completely different approach to quantum computing. Sun He explained during a tour of the facility. The Talvarans had insights about energy conservation we'd never considered. And the realm developed mathematics that solved problems we thought were impossible. When you let people work together freely, instead of forcing them into rigid hierarchies, amazing things happen. Her latest project was an FTL drive that combined human engineering, Krellin mathematics, and Talvaran energy systems. It was 3 times faster than anything that existed before and used a fraction of the power. Within a year, 50 different species were building ships with the new design. Trade Minister Dong Ha, now overseeing human commerce across the galaxy, couldn't keep up with demand. "We have more trading partners than I can count," he admitted during a cabinet meeting. "Individual agreements with hundreds of species. Different terms for different partners. It's complicated, but profitable for everyone involved." The beauty of the new system was its flexibility. Species could trade or not trade as they chose. They could form alliances or remain independent. They could share technology or keep it proprietary. Every relationship was negotiated between the parties involved, with no central authority dictating terms. Captain Baora now commanded a multinational fleet protecting major trade routes. Their ships included human frigates, Krellin destroyers, Talvaran cruisers, and vessels from a dozen other species. They'd come together voluntarily to ensure safe passage for merchant ships. "Pirates don't respect diplomatic boundaries," Baora explained to her mixed crew. "Neither do we. We go where we're needed. We protect who needs protecting. Not because some council orders us to, but because it's the right thing to do." Her fleet had stopped 3 major pirate operations in the past year. Each time they'd done so at the invitation of the affected worlds. No invasions, no occupations. Just help when help was asked for. On his private estate on one of the Drana colony worlds, former General Kyung-Soo lived quietly. He'd been discharged from military service after the failed attack on humanity. Disgraced, some called him. But Kyung-Soo had come to see his defeat differently. He'd requested permission to visit Earth, and somewhat to his surprise, it was granted. Now he sat across from Speaker Hannah in a cafe in Seoul, drinking the coffee that had become so popular across the galaxy. "I spent 300 years serving the Council," Kyung-Soo said, his translator rendering his words in perfect Korean. "I believed that power maintained peace. That authority prevented chaos. That someone had to be in charge." Hannah sipped her own coffee. "And now? Now I think the Council maintained control, not peace. You taught us that civilizations don't need rulers. They need freedom." "We didn't teach anyone anything," Hannah replied. "We just refused to accept someone else's authority over us. Other species made their own choices." Kyung-Soo clicked his mandibles in what humans had learned was his species' version of a smile. By showing them it was possible. That's a kind of teaching. Ambassador Taemin had undergone his own transformation. After 60 years serving the Council, he'd watched humanity prove everything he believed was wrong. The experience had shaken him fundamentally. Finally, unable to reconcile his values with the Council's declining relevance, he'd done something unprecedented. He'd requested asylum on Earth. Commander Ji-Woo met him at the spaceport. The massive Veloran looked smaller somehow, his mandibles drooping with exhaustion and uncertainty. "Why Earth?" Ji-Woo asked as they walked through the terminal. "You could have gone anywhere." "Because you understand," Taemin replied. "I spent my life enforcing a system I thought was necessary. You showed me it wasn't. Now I need to learn how to live without that structure. Ji Wu brought him to the Commonwealth Center. We could use experienced diplomats, people who understand both the old way and the new. If you're interested. Taemin looked around at the busy center, at species from across the galaxy working together voluntarily. I would like that very much. On Axis Prime, Chancellor Hiram stood in the nearly empty council chambers. An aide approached with the daily reports. More species were leaving. The council's authority continued to shrink. Soon it would govern only those worlds too afraid to embrace change. Do you regret it? The aide asked quietly. Not forcing humanity when we had the chance? Hiram was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled, something her species rarely did. No, if we tried harder to force them, we would have destroyed the galaxy. They would have fought, others would have joined them, and everything we built would have burned. Instead, they just walked away. And by walking away, they showed everyone else they could do the same. She looked at the star map one final time. The old order is dead. I built my life around it, and now it's gone. But maybe that's not a bad thing. The galaxy survived for billions of years before the Council existed. It will survive after we're gone. What will you do? Govern the species that still want to be governed, Hiram said simply. There are always some who prefer authority to uncertainty. Let them have their council. Let the rest have their freedom. The galaxy is big enough for both. Across human space, life continued. Earth thrived. The colonies grew. Every day brought new ships from new species. Some wanting to trade, others wanting to learn. All wanting to see the civilization that had said no to the galaxy's oldest power and lived to tell the tale. In a small apartment in New Seoul, a young girl asked her father about the history they'd learned in school. Is it true we changed the whole galaxy just by saying no? Her father smiled. We didn't change the galaxy. We just showed people they could change it themselves. There's a difference. What difference? We didn't conquer anyone. We didn't force anyone to follow us. We just lived the way we thought was right. And when other species saw that it was possible, they made their own choices. On a space station at the edge of Commonwealth territory, a Krellin merchant named Bektar closed another successful deal. He'd been the first to trade with humans during the sanctions, risking everything for profit. Now he was wealthy beyond imagination, but that wasn't what made him happy. You know what the best part is? He told his human business partner over drinks. Not the money, not even the freedom, though that's good too. It's that we did this. Not because someone told us to, not because some treaty required it, but because we chose to. That's what makes it real. In her office at the Commonwealth Center, Ambassador Su Jin reviewed the day's agenda. 30 meetings scheduled. Trade agreements, scientific partnerships, mutual defense discussions. Every one of them voluntary. Every one of them negotiated between equals.